I just want to welcome everyone tonight to the National Council for Research on Women. My name is Julie Simeone. I am the development manager here. We actually have one of our other colleagues, Kyla. The council is a network of about 120 different research and policy organizations. They're located across the United States and a couple abroad, most of them on university and college campuses, and they all focus on the issues that matter most to women and girls. So it's very great that I get to work at a place that focuses on the issues that matter a lot to me. As far as Global Youth Connect is concerned, I'm also a delegate to Rwanda in 2009. I had the opportunity to go and do some of the amazing events and activities that Jessie is going to explain in a little bit. I'm also really excited that we're going to talk about bringing the GYC model to New York, because a lot of what we did, a lot of the learning and the youth activism that we promoted is something that we could really use here in New York City. And I think exposing other people to the way our country works, the way I was exposed to the way another country works is so important. And it's affected my perception, and it's affected by my life, really, from that point on.
For most of us in this room, every day is Human Rights Day. I mean, we think about human rights all the time, but I think that Human Rights Day tomorrow is probably an important day that helps every other Human Rights Day get stronger. About why youth? Why is it that youth are so important to human rights activism?
Not to be cliche, but there's a certain energy that comes along with youth that I think lends itself to speaking out and being passionate, etc.
I think much like when you learn to speak a new language at a younger age, it becomes ingrained into you much easier. Learning about human rights and having activists at a younger age plants that seed, and it's something that's more organic than. It's not as if you can't become an activist in your 40s or 50s, but when you grow up around it, I think it resonates very true to you.
Youth are generally at the center of viral movements, so in terms of spreading things fast.
Are there any risks associated with working with youth?
I think we have to be careful not to impose our ideas onto children and youth, and to present human rights in a way where they can think about it and come to their own conclusions.
We need to give them tools, it needs to be more concrete, because younger people tend not to be taken seriously by the powers that be.
I think youth really are a good way to connect adults. For instance, in our programming in Rwanda, we try to bring a lot of different organizations together. We try to bring policymakers into the room. We have a lot of adults in our programming in what we call our learning and action community. It's like a 3-week-long workshop in which we start off with a workshop basically like this, sitting around talking with young people about human rights as a concept, getting their ideas, and seeing where there's connections, seeing where there's differences of opinion, and then we sort of expand out into seeing the environment within which we're working. So in Rwanda, we go and visit Rwandan organizations, and we work with Rwandan organizations.
I did say specifically on the delegation that I was on, I worked with an organization that focuses on children's rights, and what we did as the delegates was to go around and evaluate some of the programs that they were doing, because what we realized is there weren't a lot of fundraising and solicitation tools and program summaries that they had access to, and we put together a newsletter for them that they were able to upload to their website and share with their partner organizations and use sometimes as a fundraising tool. So that's something tangible and specific that we did as part of our delegation.
Yes, we focus on the importance of cultural exchange. We focus on the importance of having face-to-face interactions that will change the lives of the youth who are there on a very personal level. It's also personally impactful for the Rwandan youth as well. In one of the documents you have there, you'll see there's a quote from a Rwandan participant from this summer saying that by visiting all of the different places in Rwanda, they have a new perspective on human rights in their own country. And Rwandan participant said, I'm going to advocate for the Batwa tribe because I didn't know that people still exist in Rwanda living in such conditions. Or what I have learned about myself is that I was underestimating the Batwa community. When I visited them, I realized that I have to respect everyone, because you actually get to go and visit. You actually get to go and see it. So it's not just about the foreign youth coming in and getting that experience. It's also about the host youth. And the the focus is on using the work that we're doing on a regular basis, so in Rwanda every 6 months, to reinforce a connection with this human rights learning education for not just the young people, but for also all the partners that are involved in that community in Rwanda. The learning that we do there can come back to New York City even. For example, Christina is here. Her photos about Rwanda were featured on a panel. You can read a little bit about that up here on the wall. So that experience came back here. Even personally, I work on the projects and I've been doing some work on LGBT activism. And that particular topic relates to some of the impact that you will see in Rwanda on even like a legislative level. In Rwanda, there was a law proposed to criminalize homosexuality, and a group of civil society organizations essentially got up and said, no, we're not going to stand for this, and it was a widespread coalition. A lot of the members from that coalition, the leadership, had been recently in a GYC workshop, and that issue had been one that we were working on. We can't take full credit for creating a coalition, but we're a part of that process. We're a part of this, what I would call cross-pollination of ideas. To some degree, it might seem like, well, we're trying to accomplish everything at once. I would say that actually we're idealistic in that we think that there are a lot of different ways of having connections in one place. And we try to facilitate as many of those connections as possible during this 3-week period. But we're not trying to be unrealistic about what we as a small group can accomplish. So in Rwanda, we have a very fixed program, we have fixed issues we're working on, and we do not afterwards say, you know, this group of youth is going to like change the whole world overnight. So our plan is in 2011 and 2012 to develop a program in New York City where a group of 5 or 6 organizations from New York will mobilize young people in New York to form their own group of youth to host a delegation of youth from outside of the United States. Rwandan youth, Bosnian youth, Cambodian youth, and potentially even from Haiti. We're not fixing it only to the youth from our programs, although having some alumni will be really important for this cross-pollination of ideas. And ideally, we would like to have a range of organizations similar to in Rwanda. I was telling you we work on LGBT rights. There's a local organization that's working on that. So maybe we'll work with an organization here that's got that focus. And we'll work perhaps with a group that's doing work on youth in the prison system, because in Rwanda we have that program as well. We'd like to branch out and work with some schools as well and work more with the high school age range in addition to the 18 to 35 range, which is what you'll see listed in this document for the most part. We will definitely do a selection process. There will be an application for sure, and I think that a lot of it will also depend on their resumes, what they've worked on, and also personal contacts. We have alumni of our programming that we know very well, so we know their attributes, we know what they will bring to the process, and I think we really have to focus on that kind of personal connection. That's not to say that somebody can't come to the program who is outside of that level of connection, but I think that there is some element of that in our program where we're probably not going to have millions of people applying to the program. Essentially, the 2011 program is about laying the foundation in New York and maybe having 4 or 5 youth come from around the world to join in that process, and then to have a larger learning and action community with maybe 10 to 15 activists from around the world in 2012. So definitely to do something in 2011, but focusing more on what is the host group going to look like, and bringing in folks to advise on that.
I have 2 questions/points. One is I totally agree with your point that the uniqueness of GYC is its personal element. Like, I mean, from experience, I have kept connections with a lot of the Rwandese delegates that I've met, but I'm not hearing that reflected in the plan for the U.S. because it doesn't. I mean, we went to people's homes. Like, we we spent time with people on a really personal level, and I
Great question.
don't know that you can do that the same way here, or have you thought about the ways in which you can do that?
How many people here would be willing to host a Rwandan participant or a Bosnian participant in their home?
I don't know my.
Great question, right? I mean, because that is part of what we want to do. We want to
But if you're talking about
reciprocate it.
youth, I don't know how you're defining youth or what the age range is, but I think it's a little I think it's a little different.
It will definitely be different. It
Yeah.
will change. But we do want to reciprocate what we do in Rwanda. And one of the
Absolutely.
things that Lorraine is bringing up is that you actually do homestays in Rwanda. And you guys did that in Bosnia as well. So we will reciprocate that here in the States.
Yeah, but it's also like, I mean, even though we stayed at the church, the delegates came to see us every day, you know, like Placide and other people, they came to see us, so it was really personal in that way as well, even though I may not have stayed at that particular person's home for the homestay. So I think that like constant interaction and that friendship, those relationships that were built, is something that you should really focus on.
Well, absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's essentially like saying there will be a group of 10 to 15 young people from New York who are selected to host a group of 10 to 15 people from outside of the city, outside the U.S., and they spend 3 weeks together. And they represent different organizations, so then it blossoms out into seeing more than just this group of youth, but also what they're working on and what other organizations are working on. But it does have that as its base.
That's a really good point too. Like thinking about the selection process for the American side of it, making sure you get people who are super invested in it and willing to spend the time is imperative, I think.
Yeah. What do you need us, like how can we help you?
Great question. There are a lot of different ways of helping. We probably will take ideas that come out of this meeting and kind of rev things up again. I'm going to Rwanda on Monday. We're leading a program there. I'm leading a program there right around the new year into January. And so we'll be revving up again in January. We'll probably be in need of support, all sorts, financial, in-kind, connections to groups that you think might be of interest to us. We're going to consider ways of reaching out to different groups for levels of partnership, whether it's as an implementer organization, like co-running the whole program, or as one of our partnering organizations that receive volunteers and send their youth to the workshop, or help mobilize youth for the workshop. So there are two different levels, essentially, of different organizations working. Well, it's a different funding model than we've ever had, than we've had in a long time. In other words, whereas we have youth who have the ability to mobilize funds to go abroad from the United States, it's going to be difficult to mobilize funds to bring youth this way. So mobilizing partners to share in the costs, to share in the actual process, to partner on the program. With donations of space, with donations of this, it can kind of reduce the costs, right? So I don't want to say the budget is definitely $200,000 or $100,000. It's not going to be $500,000. I mean, it's going to be less than that. So essentially, it's more than we've been up against in a while. So we are looking for support, and we're looking for partnership too, to make it happen. There's an annual appeal that we're doing. So if you are able to mobilize people to give to that would be really helpful for this process. I'll just point out that the annual appeal has a special thank you gift for donations of $50 or more, and you can read about that. And I just want to say that they're actually on display over here, these bags that are made by an association that we visit with in Rwanda. They're heart bags. You unzip them, and it becomes a little shopping bag. So this is something that would be sent in time for Valentine's Day, and we'd also send a card to, if you wanted to honor somebody before the holidays or before the end of the year, we'd also send a card in advance. Global Youth Connect fits into a picture, and I think we have a unique place that we really would like to nurture over the next couple of years, and so we're really honored to have all you guys from New York here to express some interest, and hopefully we can nurture our contact with you as well and build something really special.